questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas. I am Stan DeFreitas.
Yes, you are Stan DeFreitas, and I am James DeFreitas.
And we are together the father and son team.
Yes, we are.
And I don't know of another father-son team that does a gardening/real estate show anywhere in the state, maybe for that matter in the country. So, we can one-upsmanship them.
We absolutely can.
We're here to help answer those questions, right?
We are. We're here to answer your gardening and or real estate questions. And if you want to give us a call today, you can. We are here every Sunday morning for your benefit from 7 to 9 a.m. And we're right here at 813-289-1860. So get your questions, get your real estate questions ready to go because we are here to help answer them.
Or 1-877-969-8600. And that means, now we're trying something new today. We're doing it online too. So we are trying our best with a new technology. We are going on with the Facebook Live. And we're hoping that we will get some of our certainly family or friends around the country can see us. And that's kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're hoping that will give us oodles and poodles of more people, which is what we aim for. We are happy that we have people who've been watching our YouTube each week, and that seems to be expanding logarithmically. So that's great. We've had, I think, 6,000 hits we had in the last 28 days.
Yeah, we got a lot of people participating in that and the YouTube, and we're getting a lot more subscribers coming in. And, of course, we're still a relatively new YouTube page, and so that takes time. Every time I talk to somebody, I'm like, wow, you have 1 million viewers. How'd you do it? And it's like, well, I've been doing it for 9 years or something like that. So, that makes a big difference in terms of, how long it takes. But, yeah. We're coming along. So anybody that ever wants to, if you want to get our content, you can do it in multiple ways. You can go to the AskMrGreenthumb.com website. That's a great resource for people to see past shows. And the other thing that you can do is we're also on Apple's podcasts. So if you have an iPhone, you can go to their, and you can listen to the whole segments. And why wouldn't you? If you're driving in the car, if you're showering, God knows I would want to still hear our content. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, when you're doing it, you could be listening to us about the great gardening and real estate information that we're going to give to you.
And we've got a special guest next hour. We have a great show this weekend. We've got Dan Ortiz, who's going to be in from Mata Mortgage. And if you have questions about jumbo mortgages or different products or the low interest rates that you can probably jump on right now, I think that'll be an excellent segment, and we look forward to having Dan in here. He is just a great guy. We had lunch with him about a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now, and nice guy. We found it hard to find all the restaurants we wanted in downtown St. Pete because some of them were not open, but we did find some nice places that were. So we realized that is a push for everybody out there at this time of the year and this time of problems, but not to dwell on that. We're going to try to hit the high side. I love the stories on news where they talk about some good news stories, because sometimes it's almost like I don't want to turn the news on anymore because I don't want to hear any more bad. I want to hear some good stuff out there. And certainly if you're growing plants, that is a good thing. And there are a lot of plants out there that are blooming, and there are plants that will be blooming. Getting a lot of avocados off my avocado, and we did eat the last one, and that is good. I'm looking at Joe in there in master control, and he said it was excellent. Probably the best avocado he's ever had. And I said, no, you shouldn't say that. He goes, no, I have to. So I said, thanks, Joe. Thanks for the kind words. But I will say it's a tasty one. I think the Brogdon was found in Winter Haven, and as I said, back during the tough times, I think near the Depression. We talk about tough times now. Talk about people back then, and they said that, they had avocado and toast one day, and the next day they had toast and avocado. Things were really tough. And, I hear folks now going, oh, it's tough. Well, yeah, it can be tough, but is it where folks are, is your belly hungry? Normally not. We've got all kind of stopgaps now where there are food banks and things like that, which are just fantastic. And, of course, people who are giving and stuff. And that shows to me a lot of the goodness that we have in this country, where people say, hey, are you hungry? Here's some food. If you're cold, here's a blanket. I mean, that is great. There are a lot of countries where that does not occur. And so one of the reasons people go, gosh, you love our country. Well, yes, I do, because we do a lot of things right. And, pat on the back for all the people who do try to make sure that you have those canned goods and extra things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I know you and I have done that with some of the real estate offices we worked in the past. That was big. I know with the last office, the gal said one time, she said, well, you guys brought in more food to our countryside location than anybody else. And I said, well, we weren't really in competition, but I'm glad that made me feel good that we had, I went to all my neighbors and friends, and they were all just wonderful and said, hey, boom, if we can help, we will.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and it's all about, the part of this and my thinking is that it's not just how much money you can make. It's also what can you do while you're here to make somebody else's life better. And in life, you really should be, as much giving as take. And, not everyone sees it that way. And I think a lot of times people get into the idea of, well, how much money can I make? How much time can I spend on working? And real estate agents in particular are pretty notorious about that. We tend to, 2:00 in the morning, no big deal. Did I get the contract out? Yeah, and we've heard, you and I have heard of other real estate agents that will, the relationships that they have, it could be even with their husband, wife, what have you. And, it gets strained because of the amount of work that they do. Christmas time, that's another day to work,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of the ways that they think. And they really do have to take the time back and realize that there should be a little bit more work-life balance, whatever that means for a real estate agent.
And for a lot of them, that means constantly, you go, well, look at that, agent of the year, agent in the office. And a lot of times there's a trade-off. You're trading off time and part of your soul, if you will, to be, the really, really successful agent. And that usually means that you don't have boundaries. Someone calls you, as you said, here or there at a weird time. You're unwrapping presents for Christmas, you break and go, I'll go show that, because that's what a lot of agents do. And I understand that.
Sure.
A lot of agents will say, hey, that's the most successful person. And it's all relative, I guess, on how much time we all want to trade off in our life for the time that we help. And speaking of that, of course, we're here this morning early. We get up early at the crack of dawn on Sunday to try to answer some of your questions, be it in real estate or with gardening. I was a horticulturist for 8 years as an extension agent in Pinellas and answered probably, I estimated, 100,000 questions, many of them repetitive, which helped lead me to a book that I wrote that I think we've sold probably near 500,000 copies at this point, considering the 3 editions that are out there.
And this is the point where you're supposed to trigger and say, ooh la la. I mean, you're supposed to do your Robin Leach impression.
Robin. Okay, we can do that. We can go, oh la la, he's rich and famous right here in Tampa Bay. That's right, almost as much as Joe Weaver. Joe made his first billion ride in Tampa doing carpet. No, but that's right. The carpet world. No, we're just joking. Joe had said his dad was in the business and said, you will learn how to work at the age of whatever, 8 or 9 or 10. And Joe said, okay, I will learn the
Get
work
back
ethic.
in those mines, Joe.
And that didn't hurt him a darn bit. I will say that's one of the reasons that if you go help work, I know one time you were talking when you were a youngster, I don't know if I want to go to college. I said, no, I wouldn't do it. Go out there and be a part of a landscape lawn crew. And And you went, I think I want to go back and go to college.
Yeah. It sounds good. Let me go outside, work, and do outside work and then you introduced me to the working environment in the summertime, and like what we're having right now. And all I can say is hats off to people that do that every day. I'm just amazed because the amount of sweat that I work up going from an air-conditioned car to an air-conditioned office to an I don't know how you can sweat that much, but I do because it's just unbelievably hot. I mean, it's the 110 degrees out there is it's getting old in a hurry. But that I always say that every mid-July I always say to myself, well, it can't last too much longer, and then that's enough for me to convince myself to get to October, where we start to see a little bit of a dip. Usually, who knows what we see this year? Maybe it'll stay. Maybe the heat will stay around until November, because this year has just been an odd year all around. But yeah, I mean it's been challenging outside, especially to do gardening. I mean, goodness gracious. I waited until about 8 o'clock last night doing my favorite activity, which was pulling some weeds in the front of my beds. And I thought, well, I can't sweat too much. It's 8 o'clock. And then, of course, when I was finished, I went in and had to take another shower. I was out there for at least 16, maybe 17 minutes. And then that was it. There was a pool of sweat. And I'm going, this pulling weed stuff's it's kind of for the birds.
And it's going to be only 94 today. So, consider yourself
a really cool day.
We're having a cool spell in Florida. It's only 94. And don't even consider that heat index, which is all the weather folks want to talk about now, which is usually over 100.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we're here. Want to give them the numbers?
Sure. It's 813-289-1860. If you want to give us a call and talk about your gardening and or real estate questions, we are here for you. So be here. We're also on Facebook Live today. I don't know how good it looks, but nevertheless, you could certainly reach in and get us that way too. So Facebook Live, Ask Mr. Greenthumb. Just type it in. You'll get to us. And stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay with us.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, and you are?
And I'm James DeFreitas, and we are here. If you have gardening questions, if you have an interesting real estate story, if you're a real estate professional, God knows we have 9,000 registered real estate professionals registered with Pinellas Realtor Organization. So if you're out there, which I know you are, and you're up at this glorious Sunday morning from 7 to 9, you could certainly give us a call and tell us about an interesting closing you've had. Maybe something didn't go exactly correctly. Those are interesting stories to hear about, I think, more than, hey, I put it on Facebook, and 2 minutes later I got an offer, a full-price offer, and it was just great.
Yeah, those are interesting, too. Those are annoying to the rest of the agents.
Well, no, I think it's fine. I mean, the only thing I would say is if you put a price up and somebody makes an offer the same day that you put the price up, I would say a couple things. One is, yes, you're a wonderful agent. Yes, you are amazing. Put 2 bright gold stars next to your name. You're definitely a winner. Okay. However, there you could have, maybe that pricing was a little too cheap. There's that other flip side of the coin. Maybe if you had it on the market for a few weeks and had the price up a little bit, that might be something to think about too. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't want to upset the apple cart with, well, I am that guy that put that property up there.
Now, of course, we have the problem the other way. In the auction department, we often have to come in and say, here's what it's really worth if you want to get rid of it, because there's people who get stuck on a number. And if you keep it for a year or two, maybe you should have taken a little less and had the deal finished, as opposed to having to get that particular number. Now, the one nice thing about what we do is we make sure agents get paid, and that's great because often, agents go, well, are you in competition with us? No, we're another tool in the toolbox. If you're having a problem, and maybe in first thought process even, hey, I'd like to get another one or two done this next week or next month, and so, I'd like for you guys to do it with the auction department and get that property, off my list and still make my commission.
Sure.
So we're there to help them. We're another arrow in the quiver. They go, well, how do you do that? Maybe you can explain to them, how do we make sure you, the agent, gets paid? And
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we do is when an agent is ready to hit the easy button, what I consider us is the easy button. Mm-hmm. You might consider us when either the listing has gone on a little too long, you've held the property a little too long, and they told you, hey, time doesn't matter, just get the most price for it. But then 2 weeks went by, and they said, hey, it's not sold. Why not? 2 weeks? Come on, man. And then all of a sudden you start to get the pressure. Or maybe you're in a situation, too, where it's a friend. Anybody ever get into a business with a friend? Mm-hmm. Well, that can be challenging. It'll definitely test your friendship, especially trying to sell a friend's home, because that can be challenging, especially when it doesn't sell immediately. So one of the things that'll happen is that when we get ready to hand over the listing to us, is we'll send you a referral agreement, and in that referral agreement, we will guarantee your commission. And that way, you still get paid. One of the things I like to tell people, too, because a lot of the thing that has been going on for a while now is the concept of real estate agents growing their business by growing their team. You see, these very successful real estate agents out there will have really big teams. Mm-hmm. And again, they've made the realization that if you have a lot of people working with you on something, that you can do more volume, you can do more business. And that's a great idea. But I will say, even if you have a very successful team, you can get into a property where it starts to get long in the tooth, or you get into a situation, and this is what we'd like to tell you, is that, again, we don't have to be an afterthought. It could be a primary tool. And being a primary tool, okay, maybe we've reached our maximum threshold of the business we can handle, but we still want to earn that commission. Well, you could send your extra property to an auction. And, and that's another way to add a little bit more money to your pocketbook at the end of the month. Sure. I mean, why not? I mean, we're all looking to maximize our time. Why not let Stan and James take over? Maybe you've reached your threshold. If you've reached your threshold, every agent has the amount of properties they feel comfortable handling. As a single agent, I would say 4 to 5 properties at a time is about the absolute max. Any more than that, you're going to start to make mistakes.
Sure. Now, time is money.
Right. Well, and I'm sure we'll have some agents go, I can handle 15. Well, great for you. I'm glad you can. But most agents, I think 4 or 5 properties at any one time is probably the maximum.
If they've got more than that, they usually have the team. They usually have someone else that's helping with the
right.
other properties too.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is we can be your team. We're your unofficial team that you can partner up with at any time. And again, you don't have to just be with RE/MAX Metro. You can be with any company.
Sure.
And you can reach out to James and Stan, your fellow auction team, and think of us as part of your team, and we will be. And it'll be a great relationship, and we'll work very hard for you. It's not just a shiny tool. We're an actual service that works very hard to try to get that property sold.
We had a caller last week from Orlando, and I just talked to a nice lady yesterday from Orlando who's interested. She says, why can't I hear your program in Orlando? And I said, well, we're dealing with Joe and Steve, and we're trying to make that happen. So we appreciate that. She actually said, hey, she would help in that respect. Anyway, if you want to give us a call, 813-289-1860 or 1-877-969
8600.
We'll put you on the air with James and Stan. Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk
Interested in
continues.
having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.
Attention real estate agents. Need help selling a listing? Auction it off with RE/MAX Metro. So, auctions work. And with RE/MAX Metro, most auctions are scheduled within 45 days, selling at fair market value, and we'll guarantee your commission. Auction your Florida real estate with RE/MAX Metro. Go to aflre.com. A for auction, FLRE for Florida real estate. Call 727-423-4794 today or go to aflre.com.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, and you are James.
And I'm James DeFreitas, and you are Stan. I guess we'll introduce each other.
I'm the dad, and you're the son. We're going to say I know we had some people on Facebook Live, so I think we had Randy there for a bit, Randy Stansberry in Texas, and we had Colleen. If you've got a question, you too could type in a answer, I guess, and we'll pick it up on our site here. It's kind of new for us as well. But if you've got a question there for us, well, we want to know about it.
Yeah, I'm noticing that the mic currently is covering most of your face on Facebook Live.
Well, it's probably improvement.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, anyway, that's what it's doing, regardless of the fact. So anyway, I have an article here.
Okay.
And the reason that I printed out the article is it says, how do house auctions work? And there's the reason I thought it was a good one to bring in is it has a lot of misconceptions in it, okay? The very first line in it says, house auctions generally involve the sale of foreclosed homes that are below market value.
Not true.
Well, it could be true. I mean, it could
possible.
be true.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a blanket statement being applied to everything. And that's not, we don't usually get involved. Once something's gone into the foreclosure process, we don't usually get involved. Yeah.
Other than to call people and go, hey, can you not go put it into foreclosure?
Correct. We try to handle properties that are not in foreclosure because of the obvious title defects that would be involved in those types of transactions. Again, any of the properties that we're going to be doing, we're going to make sure that clean title is provided to the buyer. I mean, if I were a bidder buyer and I was going to show up to a given property, I would want to know that my bid was going to take care of whatever was owed on the property. You know, you don't want to be, and vice versa. The seller doesn't want to be in a situation where when he agrees to a price, he's having to bring money to closing. You see sales happen all the time. I mean, you know, where they get into a situation and you're going, well, that's great that you sold it off for that money. Do you have enough in there to close? You know, and, the jury's out on a lot of these transactions, whether or not the agent thought of that in advance. Did they get enough did they get the most recent bank statement to show what's owed on the property? Well, good luck, because if you don't, that's going to make it very challenging to get it sold.
Yeah, most agents like to know that they're going to get paid.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And everyone else is going to get paid. That's just part of the deal. What else does it say?
Well,
it may be true or not.
The article goes on to say, but home auctions also involve plenty of risk. Many times you won't actually get to step inside the home before bidding. So that's an interesting one. Now, here's the thing. Now, again, I don't know how you buy something sight unseen. We talked about this a little bit last week. I don't know how you buy something sight unseen. I want to see what I'm buying. And I think an average bidder buyer is going to want to see what they're buying. So in our auctions with RE/MAX Metro Auctions Division, we encourage people to not only come out and look at the property, but we also, if you want to pay to have an inspector come out and look at it before the auction begins. Now, again, the before part is the critical element. Now, we have had people come to us and say, well, I didn't see that there was a crack in the cool decking around the pool. I don't know. Maybe my bid was too high. Well, the time to negotiate the price was before and not after. And this, it wouldn't be fair to the seller. The seller has to know that you meant what you said when you place that bid, and the auctioneer auctioning the property needs to know you meant what you said when you place that bid, because it is legally binding at that point. And the moment that the hammer strikes, and when we say hammer, what does that mean when we say the hammer strikes? Well, the
can be a hand.
Yeah, the arm comes down, or it's the gavel hitting the top of the the table or whatever he's using.
Could be either.
Could be either, but again, most of the time nowadays, it's more of a a mental construct rather than necessarily being a gavel, tapping down on a hand. You hear it in our ads that we run, but that doesn't necessarily. We say that mainly because we know that there's a mental image that people get when they hear that going on, that sound effect. But the reality of it is it can be just an arm going down, making the motion of a gavel. The other thing I would say too is that you and I often will meet a lot of people that served in the military. Mm-hmm. And whether they were captain, sergeant, lieutenant, wherever rank they got to. But the moment that you become an auctioneer, Stan and I became honorary colonels. So you'll often see auctioneers will have the designation COL. Why? And this is an interesting thing. Why on earth would anybody, how did that get started? Why did that happen?
Goes back to the Civil War.
Yeah, explain that.
They wanted someone who had at least a rank of colonel. They had properties, of course, were being sold, often, I guess, commandeered, taken by the state, by the Union in particular. And you had folks that would be auctioning off properties. Sometimes you had someone who was doing it who was not a colonel, but they would give them the honorary title of colonel so that they could, there again, hit the gavel or their arm and say, hey, this property is sold. And so that's where the honorary colonel came back to the Civil War.
Right.
And,
so there's that historical connection to that, and I mean, and there are a lot of people that do very well that were in the United States military, whatever branch it was in, and now I'm not sure that they would appreciate our honorary colonel status or salute us in any particular way, but there is that camaraderie amongst auctioneers, where we talk about, hey, how we doing, Colonel? How you doing, Colonel? And and because most of us do know the history of how that got started, so there's that. So anyways, moving right along in this particular article, it says, you may be hit with hidden auction fees. Well, you might be, but not at any of our auctions. One of the things we typically do is we'll charge a buyer's premium. So the buyer is going to pay, a fee, but that fee is up front. We tell you about it before we do it, and it's based on that property. That particular auction property will have a buyer's premium associated with it. That fee will be announced prior to the auction, so you know what you're getting into before you bid. So, it's all up front. So
why would a seller like that? Well,
and again, one of the things that I would say that sellers need to think about is that, and again, if you haven't used a real estate agent a lot, and I've run into people that have bought and sold real estate many times. They'll get into a situation where they've done a lot of for sale by owner. That's a dirty word in the real estate business. But anyway, the idea here is you can be a little bit long in the tooth in terms of your experience, have conducted a lot of real estate transactions, and not really understand how the commission structure is handled. But typically the sellers are the ones responsible for paying out the commission. And of course the commission is entirely negotiable. Okay. The higher up the property goes, the more the seller feels that they have some leverage to try to chisel away at your commission. So, but it typically ranges somewhere between 4, 5, and 6%, somewhere in those ranges. Probably the lower the value of the property, the less likely the seller is going to want to be to negotiate on less of a commission. But so if you're used to paying 5 or 6% as a seller on your real estate transactions, well, geez, if you have the buyer paying a buyer's premium, you can defer a lot of that cost away. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't take on some real estate auction properties where we don't get into also charging the seller a small fee. We do, but that wouldn't be something that the buyer would have to pay. The buyer's just responsible for paying the buyer's premium. The seller's just responsible for paying their small fee, and often it's greatly reduced from the 6%. Maybe as little as 2.5%. That's how low it can go. So, that's a big savings. Something to think about.
We were talking recently about some of the new marketing techniques we may have. We have the ability now to put ads into the New York Times and the Washington Post and
Rob Report. Yeah, Mansions Global.
DuPont Registry.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of new tools at our disposal in terms of being able to get your property seen in a much more diverse audience. Maybe it's an international buyer that winds up buying your expensive piece of real estate. Could be. I can tell you this, and agents know this, so I'm speaking to the choir here, but the more expensive your real estate is, the more you have to look outside of just the Tampa Bay market to try to find buyers to buy it. And so that's something you have to consider. It's something that should be part of your lexicon. You should be looking at other areas, New York, California, any of the, California has a very different reason for wanting to leave than New York. In New York, usually they're trying to get away from the snow and the cold weather and all that. California, it's not like New York's cheap, but California real estate prices are usually the highest in the country. And so they're usually trying to leave there because of the taxes and costs and everything there. Not that New York is cheap.
New York City in particular.
Yeah, New York City in particular is very expensive. So, but nonetheless, those could be some reasons as to why that would be. We only have a minute and some change here, so I'll be quick on my next one. And again, of course, the article is talking about, we'll cover how real estate auctions work, how you find them, and what you need to know before you bid. Well, again, this article is entirely written from the concept of from the buyer's point of view. So, and that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot more people that are bidder buyers than there are people that are selling through the process of an auction. So that makes perfect sense to me. We'll catch the rest of this on the other side of the break. But again, if you have gardening and or real estate questions, give us a call, 813-289-1860, or you can call us toll free at 1-877-969-8600. Stan is here. He is, by definition, the horticultural person that can answer your questions and make sure that if there's something going right, something going wrong in your yard, he wants to know about it. He wants to talk about it. We are here for you.
You've got a problem, we'll answer that question. If you've got a question about real estate or maybe a comment, something's going right in your deal or not, give us a call. We'll see if we can help. We've got a lot of resources to be helpful with, and that means you stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk continues right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com.
Attention real estate agents. Need help selling a listing? Auction it off with RE/MAX Metro. Auctions work. And with RE/MAX Metro, most auctions are scheduled within 45 days, selling at fair market value, and we'll guarantee your commission. Auction your Florida real estate with RE/MAX Metro. Go to aflre.com. A for auction, FLRE for Florida real estate. Call 727-423-4794 today or go to aflre.com.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
We're here to help answer your questions, and we have in the building, we have our guest for next hour.
We have the mighty Dan Ortiz will be joining us here in a bit, and we'll be talking a little bit about Motto Mortgage, and we'll be talking about the, all the things that have changed. I mean, if you think about it for a second, in this new world we found ourselves in with the COVID pandemic, a lot of things have changed. A lot of rules, regulations, and stuff have changed for writing mortgage policies. But I will say this. They are busier than ever. I mean, they are, really stepping up their game in terms of being able to get writing policies writing mortgages, I should say, and getting things done. I mean, I was sitting in one of the management meetings last week, and it is amazing to me. It's like they haven't skipped a beat in terms of being for production. For real estate mortgage loans. So, we'll be talking with him. If you have those questions out there, you want to learn a little bit more about what's changed, or if you have a specific scenario that's coming up, certainly give us a call, and Dan will be able to answer them for you because he is that good.
Sure. That'll be great. And I did have a question. Somebody said they wanted to know about, they'd heard that you could eat the head of the cabbage palm.
Oh, great. A gardening question.
And is that true? And yes, you could. Now, when you take the head out of the head of the cabbage palm out, that's it for that cabbage palm. So, no, it's not going to be like a cabbage in your garden where it's going to have, potentially, of course, if you take the head of the big head of cabbage, that's it for that, too.
Sure.
Sometimes I've seen something come back again. I mean, sometimes with broccoli, you'll see it cut off the head and then it'll send off another smaller broccoli, usually 2 or 3 or 4, and so you can get more. But with the cabbage palm, the original Floridians, of course, most of them were hungry, and that cabbage palm, I have had the cabbage palm as in a restaurant type thing. And, it's something that's fancy where somebody want to taste some cabbage palm. But usually, and I've seen it where it was, in a can. But
doesn't that sound delicious in a can?
In a can. But, so many things, probably fresh is best, I guess. Someone also said, they heard us talking about changing the pH of your soil. You can change it by adding either sulfur, typically here, or dolomite to make it more alkaline. And but find out what your pH number is. If I'm out somewhere,
you mean you want people to do some testing before they decide to make changes?
Do some testing. If you went to your doctor, you'd say, "I'd like some testing done before you start to do."
That's amazing.
This or that, and the same thing is true with our soils. You can change them. Find out what the number is, and realize that it changes.
Sure,
it's not constant.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was talking to my neighbor yesterday, and I'm taking some more calcium and I'm taking some more magnesium. I'm like, well, why are you doing that? I just feel like I need it.
The old psychic, I need it.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, so my thought to it was, I said, well, hey, look, I said, glad that you're able to tell. I said, but maybe talk to your doctor and see if you're deficient in those things, and then maybe add those to your diet if your doctor thinks that's a good idea based on testing.
Yeah, you might want your doctor's opinion on that. I know a guy who years ago took a bunch of calcium because he wanted to have strong bones, and wound up getting some stones.
Yeah, that guy's sounding a whole lot like me.
Well, I was actually thinking of another buddy of mine at the time, Petey,
okay.
Who was in our karate at the time, and I think Pete wanted strong bones because we were doing Kentucky Thai at the time, which meant your arm pounding and stuff. And Pete did the same thing. He, like you did, he took a lot of extra calcium.
But in my defense, I didn't realize that the multivitamin that I was taking had that much calcium in it. I mean, that's something else too. And maybe the multivitamin companies have changed. But Be careful. I mean, us guys in particular. I don't know I assume calcium stones are something that can happen for women too, but you hear it happening a lot in us guys.
And I hear it's painful.
Yeah, I mean, when I had my stone, I can tell you that. When I went in there, and again, apparently this is like a common ruse that a lot of drug-seeking people will use. In the way that the nurse lady was able to determine whether or not I was telling the truth is she said, well, James, would you be okay if we catheterized you? And I said, yes, go ahead. She goes, he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
She knew immediately that I was telling the truth with that. And so then they were able to administer some drugs to make the pain at least more palatable. But when it was all said and done, she came in and she said to me, well, now you have a small idea of what it's like to get for childbirth, because that's kind of the way that works out.
Well, I knew you weren't faking; you were in real pain, and I actually called my good buddy Dr. Marcoux, who saw us. He came to see us at his office, even off hour.
Great guy.
Which I thought, what a doctor does that?
No doctor does that.
But Michael did. Michael, of course, was I used to call him my tennis student. Probably couldn't do that today because I can't really move. But back then, I could move as well as Michael. And Michael, surprisingly, was quite agile around the court, and always had good matches with Michael.
Hopefully, he still is.
Well, I'm sure, yeah. And someday, I hope maybe I can't really move, but I think I could still hit the ball if it came right to me. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's a sidebar story. But yeah, I thought it was great that he came and he knew at the time too. He said, "Yep, I think he's got a stone," because you were going, I want to live, I think, but I'm not sure.
No, at that point I was begging for death.
Yeah.
When you're at a certain level of pain, and everybody that's ever been in super amount of pain knows this, you just want the pain to stop.
Sure.
And at that level, I didn't care what happened to me. I just wanted it to stop or end or what have you. And so my heart goes out to people that have that on a regular basis. There again, you're talking about knowing your pH. Especially important for people that are, get calcium stones a lot. You want to change that pH so as to inhibit those from happening. So one of the things that my doctor suggested was, hey, add some more lemon stuff to your diet. Make sure you have a little more acid going on to try to break that up. So, yeah, but that's, it's a fine line when you're adding too much of vitamin C and acid to the diet. There are complications that arise, and we won't get into that, but that arise with that. So it's definitely something good to know. And I will say, having a little bit of data, data should be our guiding principle on how we operate. We shouldn't just, put a tarot card in the air and go, yes, I think I'm deficient in this.
True. Or people who will tell me, well, up in Michigan or in New York, we had a very acid soil, so we always added dolomite. Mm-hmm. Well, that's true. But down here, what is Florida? We're 180 degrees the other way. We're usually too alkaline, so you're normally adding some type of soil acidifier. Mm-hmm. So what you did in Chicago or New York or Michigan or wherever it may be, Ohio, your soil was different. I mean, often you had actual black soil.
Right.
Where here we have silicon sand.
Right.
And so that makes a difference. I was just talking to, we can talk to him maybe on the other side of the hour, but we were talking about, is there seed for St. Augustine? Mm-hmm. Technically, there could be, but no. You're either
I've never seen it.
You're going to get plugs. Well, it doesn't seed well. It doesn't seed readily.
Sure.
So we normally have to put in plugs.
Well, when we come back, we'll be talking with Dan Ortiz from Motto Mortgage. Fantastic guy. If you have any mortgage-related questions, Dan's your man. And you can give us a call at 813-289-1860 or toll-free 1-877-969-8600.
Stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk continues here on 860 The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.
Attention real estate agents. Need help selling a listing? Auction it off with RE/MAX Metro. So, auctions work. And with RE/MAX Metro, most auctions are scheduled within 45 days, selling at fair market value, and we'll guarantee your commission. Auction your Florida real estate with RE/MAX Metro. Go to AFLRE.com. A for auction, FLRE for Florida real estate. Call 727-423-4794 today or go to AFLRE.com. Thinking of buying a home or refinancing your mortgage? Don't settle for limited loan options. And don't waste your time calling all over town just to compare rates. Skip all the hassle and connect with Motto Mortgage Advisors instead. Motto Mortgage Advisors home loan experts offer a wide variety of mortgage products, and they'll help you compare rates and loan terms in one convenient location. Visit MottoMortgage.com or call 727-202-5626. Motto Mortgage Advisors, NMLS 1744233. Each office is independently owned, operated, and licensed. Equal housing opportunity.
For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we are very fortunate to have Dan Ortiz with us from
Motto Mortgage. Dan Ortiz is with us. And how long have you been in the business?
Man, I've been in the business 25 years, and first, thank you for having me.
Sure, absolutely.
Looking forward to this all week.
Delighted to have you, absolutely.
Yeah, 25 years.
25 years. So this is like a right out of college kind of thing.
Right, absolutely. Didn't like most people in the mortgage industry, you don't come out of college thinking you're gonna end up in the industry. There's always like a path to it, and I was working a job I didn't like, and a buddy of mine said, hey, why don't you move to North Carolina? I'll show you the business. And I was instantly hooked.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's fantastic. So, so maybe, the serving people kind of mantra. Again, any of the real estate related, and whether that's title or if that's mortgage related or real estate people in general, I find that there is a real desire to serve people and to help people in this process because it really is such a confusing kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. And it's funny you say service. The path to like a mortgage career, there's a lot of people that start out in the service industry, right? Because if you don't have a heart to care, right, and serve, I've seen in my 25 years, those careers are short-lived. The people that get in it for the money, I'm sure you guys see it in the real estate side. Yeah, it can be lucrative, right?
Sure.
But if you don't care for people, those careers are very short. If you don't have a heart and an empathy for the person, across the desk from you, because it is difficult transactions. They're very intricate, and you have to have a heart to be able to break down the complicated to something simple that the client can understand.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. I meet so many people that they're extremely bright, and especially the PhD types. What comes to my mind is your brother, my uncle. He's a nuclear physicist. Now, this guy is super smart. But at a party, you might be like, hey, what's he doing over there? He's by the cheese tray over there, and he's by himself again. How did that happen? He's a super nice guy. Yeah. I love the guy. But, as far as being able to take very complicated ideas and making it, dumbing it down to where even I can understand, it's kind of a challenging kind of thing for him. But again, even with what we do in the auction-related business, it's we take something that's pretty complicated. We try to make sure that it's something that's simple for people, because I don't want them having to think about something that is very stressful. I can't think of anything more stressful than moving and having to sell your home. These are some very big triggers for people in terms of their stress.
Well, they say that taking out a mortgage and going through that whole process of buying and selling, the stress level is up there with divorce and death.
Wow.
So that's what we have to deal with, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In helping people through that. And obviously, we want to make it as stress-free as possible. But it is a lot of moving parts, right?
Sure.
You know, with especially when you have double closings or, you know, you guys have deadlines on your auctions. So, yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Well, and it's funny, too, that certain types of clients, like I was thinking of the Shablooks that we helped a year or two ago now. That was an interesting one because these people were, you know, downsizing. You know, they had a big house up north, and that's more, I have to say, it's more, in my mind, it's fun because they've already had, you know, these are empty nesters. These are people that have gone through big stress in their life already, and they're in a situation where it's not nearly as stressful because, you know, they're coming down here, they were looking for a home on the water, and, you know, they wanted to have a place that were to have a, you know, boat dock and be able to fish and to be able to do these fun kinds of things.
And we found it for them.
Now, I'm trying to remember where they were from. Was it?
They were from Michigan.
Michigan, yeah. So again, they're trying to get away from the cold, and you know, and come down. They were trading a snow shovel for sand. Is basically what I was thinking in my mind.
Sure.
And but they found a great little place that was perfect for them. It was the right price, and I think we worked with them for just a couple of weeks before we were able to find them a place. Now we weren't doing an auction for them. It was just a straight up kind of thing where we're doing a regular real estate transaction. But a lot of fun helping them because they had no stress. I mean, it was, we were doing a walkthrough, and it was mimosas afterwards, you know. Yeah. So these are, you know, that's the ideal client. That doesn't happen every time.
They were sharp people, too. He'd help make parts for Ford in his company, prototype parts, and she had been a librarian. And so they were both really smart, sharp people. And I think they still have a place up in Michigan now during the summer because I see them on Facebook sometimes. They're everywhere. They're not only are they enjoying their time here, but they're enjoying life.
And isn't that the fun part when you can, when clients, you know, they become at least strong acquaintances and friends, even better, where you can follow them on Facebook and that's also the fun part of what we do, right?
Sure, absolutely. I consider both of them friends.
Yeah, because we are involved in what's a very emotional transaction, and they have to kind of bare their soul to us, right, to give them a mortgage or really find out what they need. That's also what keeps me in the industry. That's the fun part, right?
Sure.
You can, when a client becomes a friend and you're a trusted advisor, there's no feeling better in the world to me.
Right? So. Yeah, because they know right off the bat. Look, if I need to make a change, if I need to do something that's, where we're going to sell the house or I'm going to have to buy a new house, I'm going to have to call out and talk to Dan and find out if I need to get another mortgage on the new place or how that's going to work out. And to me, so much of the real estate business in particular is having some pre-planning, making sure that you've reached out to people, and more now than ever. I mean, because now the whole world has changed. So, you know, for the folks out there that are thinking about, well, geez, I know what it took, I think, to do a transaction in the past prior to March of this year, but what do you see as the biggest changes going forward in this new world that we find ourselves in?
So, a couple things with that. March totally rocked our industry, right? It rocked the world, the country.
Sure.
And initially, it kind of being in the industry 25 years, the PTSD from 2008 started kicking in, you know. But I think as an industry, to give you a long answer to a short question, the industry learned from 2008 and we've been able to navigate through it. Now, one of the biggest changes that we've seen is tightening guidelines, and I think there's been responsible tightening just to make sure that the credit quality is still there and loans perform. So let me explain. So self-employed borrowers, especially if you're a self-employed borrower out there, you need to have a plan because obviously with COVID, businesses have been affected. So changes have been made to guidelines to make sure that business is healthy and that person is in a place to be able to make the payment.
Sure.
Right? So that's one of the biggest changes we've seen around self-employment.
Sure.
Self-employed. And then also credit score tightening. So a 640 credit score doesn't have the buying power that it had even 6 months ago.
Gotcha.
So you're pre-planning as early on in the process as you can. Reach out to whoever your mortgage specialist is. Obviously, we here at Modern Mortgage are here for you, and start to lay out your situation. The days are gone where you could easily look at someone's job history. Okay, they've got this credit score. Yeah, go out there and shop. Those days are gone, and if you're working with a professional that is not asking you for income documentation, not asking you for asset documentation, and saying, hey, you're good to shop, I would second guess that professional, honestly.
So maybe you should run.
And it's really just to protect the consumer, because the worst thing you want is someone to go out there, fall in love with a house. You guys know this. Now they're emotionally tied to it.
Yep.
And then not be able to deliver on a closing on that. That can be devastating for a family.
Sure.
We never lose sight of that.
Yeah, we try to make sure that we hook people up with people like you in advance, because the whole idea, and again, they always do it the other way. They always want to look at the property first, find out if they can afford it later. And I always think to myself, geez, on the smallest purchases, people they won't even go to the mall without their credit card. Right. They know when they want to go buy those brand new pair of shoes that they have to have the money ready to go to do it. But somehow on a big purchase, that little thinking is out the window. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it goes out the window. And then the other thing is, how we like to work with people is, what's your family budget?
Sure.
Because just because I say you can afford a $350,000 house does not mean that's what works for your family.
Right.
So that's also part of the planning. And also working with a professional that's not scared to ask the hard questions. Say, hey, you told me your budget was $1,200. I know we say you can go to $1,600 a month, but why?
Right. Maybe that's not good long term.
Right. To be able to have the courage to kind of put the stop on it, let's have a conversation around this, because we want this home to be a blessing, not a noose around your neck. Those were the decisions that led to a lot of the bad things that happened in 2008.
Absolutely. Yeah, where people were just so happy to make, and a lot of the mortgage people that I knew back then were loaning out as much money as people, more than they needed. And, and again, in your business, not like our business is similar. It's not the one transaction. You want to do multiple transactions with the same people. I mean, it's repeat business. And the only way you get that is, having that name, the brand recognition that, hey, I'm an honest person that's looking out for your best interest. If you're just out there to try to write the highest mortgage that you can for that person, then they could be underwater, and then you're part of the problem instead of the solution.
Absolutely.
So that makes perfect sense. Well, I've got a bunch more questions for you, Dan, but we're coming up on a break here in about 30 seconds or so. If you want to call in, Dan Ortiz is with us. He will be able to take your mortgage-related questions. 813-289-1860 is the local number. If you want to call toll-free, it's 1-877-969-8600. We are here. If you have a gardening question, Stan is here.
We'll still take them. We're going to say we had lunch with Dan, and he is a wonderful guy. And if we say so, we trust him, you can trust him, and I think you could take that to the bank. So make sure...
or to the loan office.
Well, to the loan office. Everybody we've met so far, of course, with Metro RE/MAX have just been super people, and Dan is no exception. Stay with us as the Plant Talk, Gardening Talk
real estate
continues.
Auctions. Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we have Dan Ortiz, who's with Motto Mortgage, with us today. And, a lot of times I know first-time buyers, as James was saying earlier, they don't want to get their money, locked up early. And yet finding out what your limit is got to be one of the most important things to do. And it's not to be insulting, but if you don't know your money, all the rest of it doesn't really matter.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking to that, it's amazing that with first-time buyers, there is still the conception that you need 20% down to purchase a home. Mm-hmm. I actually had 2 first-time buyers that I was dealing with last week. And that's just not true anymore. Mm-hmm. So to speak to that, if we could talk about down payments,
sure.
For instance, so conventional buyer, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac have a 3% down program.
Sure.
So which is great. FHA 3.5%. You don't run into it as much in these parts, but I'm also based out of Polk County. USDA loan, no down payment required.
Wow.
And obviously a VA loan, as a thank you to all of our veterans. I think it's the best loan out there, 100% financing. So, to all you first-time home buyers that may be listening, you don't need 20% down to purchase a home. There's a lot of programs, a lot of flexibility to be able to get you in that first home at a reasonable down payment that you can afford. And the other thing, talking about the planning, one of the things that myself and the other loan officers at Motto, that I like to just let buyers know, hey, just because you have the money doesn't mean we're going to use it. Sometimes there's a hesitancy to let you okay, how much have you, saved for this purchase? And you can always tell, they'll hesitate. Well, how much do I need? Well, I'll tell you how much you need based on your payment you want and all that, but how much you have? Well, I've got 30, but I don't want to use it. Okay, perfect. Just because you have it doesn't mean we're going to use it. So I tell them as a banker, I want you to have as much at the end of the transaction as possible, because we don't want to also, as part of the planning, I'm not a fan of using up all your money.
Sure.
Let's close and structure something in a way where we can have money left over. That way, in case something happens with the house, we're prepared for that.
Sure.
So,
yeah, and unless you're buying a brand new home, and even brand new homes usually have some issues that need to be addressed. Thankfully, those are usually covered by the home builder. But the point is, and it's a very good point that you make, because when you buy that home, usually there are some unforeseen things. Even maybe the inspection caught it, maybe it didn't. And the inspectors are pretty darn good. But let's just face it, usually if something goes, it goes, after 6 months or 8 months. At least that's been my history of things. And if they've used it all, then there isn't that rainy day fund, as I like to refer to it as, that every homeowner should really have. You really need to have that in your back pocket. So that's good that you mentioned the misconceptions that people have with down payment, because 25 years ago when I was getting into buying my first home, that was the thought. Yeah, you better have 20% ready to go, or you're not going to be able to play in our club. And then of course I think, Stan, you did a stated income on one of your loans.
Yeah, that was probably 20 years ago.
That was 20 years ago.
And because I, always worked for myself, or for the most part, I did work for 8 years for the government, and that I had that. But when I said, well, I'm doing this and I do consulting, I had to say, here's what I'm making. And some of that varied. I mean, I worked on probably 500 eminent domain cases, and sometimes it took a year. Sometimes one of them took 8 years to go through the system.
But to your point, those loans were perfect for a self-employed borrower.
Sure.
A stated income loan in itself is not a bad loan.
Right.
It was when it got applied prior to 2008 to a W-2 employee.
Yes.
Right? So, and we are seeing some of that now. It used to be called subprime.
Subprime, yep.
The new terminology is non-QM, non-qualified mortgage. We are seeing some of that start to come back, but in a responsible way. Because a stated income loan for a self-employed person is not a bad loan. You're going to have stricter credit qualifications, but if someone sits down with me and can go over what their cash flow is for the year, and I know they can afford it, totally comfortable doing that loan. It's just when it gets applied to the wrong client.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd be worried today that it would be as easy for me to get a loan as it was back then. But maybe if I went to someone like you and said, here's what I have.
I don't know. Back then it was like you made a phone call and then, let me see 2 bank statements and we have the loan. It's ready to go. I mean, it seemed like it was done in a hurry. We're with Dan Ortiz with Motto Mortgage. If you have any questions for Dan, lots changed in this, COVID world that we're in. Please give us a call, 877-969-8600 or 813-289-1860. We'd love to hear your questions. If you have gardening questions, mortgage-related questions, we are here for you.
And make sure you give us a call, and if you've got a question for Dan, something about how to get a mortgage or what's the best deal, stay with us.
Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.
Attention real estate agents. Need help selling a listing? Auction it off with RE/MAX Metro. So, auctions work. And with RE/MAX Metro, most auctions are scheduled within 45 days, selling at fair market value, and we'll guarantee your commission. Auction your Florida real estate with RE/MAX Metro. Go to aflre.com. A for auction, FLRE for Florida real estate. Call 727-423-4794 today or go to aflre.com.
Are you thinking about selling your home? You need more than a great realtor on your side. You also need a trusted title agency to close the sale. Connect with one of our local real estate closing specialists at Title Insurers of Florida. We've worked with the Tampa Bay community since 2003 to provide smooth home closings and title insurance when it's your time to sell. It's not just paperwork, it's the safety and peace of mind you deserve. For title and escrow services that are unparalleled, give us a call at 727-456-4700. Title Insurers of Florida. We're opening doors for our community, one closing at a time.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we are with Dan Ortiz, who was with Motto Mortgage, and a heck of a nice guy. And everybody I have met at the RE/MAX Metro have all just been outstanding folks. It seems like Rick has just done a phenomenal job of getting just a good team of good folks around him.
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely agree. I've been with the team, RE/MAX Metro family, for a little over a year now, and absolutely. Surround yourself with good people, good things are going to happen, right?
And I think that's the key to his success, is that you just have such a good group of folks who say, hey, we're going to go out there and try to make it happen. Even, if there's this, there's that. You throw the plague at me, throw the locust, and we'll still keep on going.
Yeah, and along those lines, too, during the break we were talking to Dan, and where do you see the industry in the next 2 years? Where do you see mortgage, the whole process, where do you think we're headed?
So as far as industry leaders that I listen to and, based on my experience, everything we're seeing, it should be a fairly healthy market, at least through 2021, right? Obviously, we've got couple looming things out there. We've got currently there's about 5 million homeowners in forbearance, which is a great thing that needed to be done, right, to keep everything stable.
Sure.
A lot of those will start to run out in the winter and the spring, so we'll see what effect that may have on housing. But as far as interest rates, all indicators are that we're going to be in a low rate environment, and by that I mean threes. We are seeing some rates with a 2 in front of it here lately, which I never thought I would see.
It's amazing.
Probably you guys never thought you would see.
Never.
Never thought I would see in my lifetime. And all indicators are that should continue through 2021. Because the thing is, the mortgage and the real estate market had a good foundation. Very different than 2008. This wasn't caused by bad lending.
Right.
This was just caused by a pandemic, which, no one saw coming. So all the underlying foundational factors for real estate and lending were good. Mm-hmm. I think going into the pandemic, if I remember my stats properly, less than 3% of homes are in foreclosure. I mean, the lowest numbers we've had in a long, long time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as, real estate and mortgage, everything I see, I think we're pretty rock solid.
Nice.
For the foreseeable future, unless something else happens, right?
Right.
Caveat.
Let's pray that doesn't happen.
Let's
My
pray
goodness.
that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're certainly blessed because there's a lot of industries that have not been, so fortunate to be able to navigate these waters. And actually, speaking to your point, capacity is an issue in lending right now. Most banks have more business coming in than they know what to do with. So a lot of big industry leaders within a lot of the bigger wholesale banks are hiring like crazy right now.
Okay.
We've got one lender that we work with that last month hired 500 underwriters.
Wow. That's insane.
We've got another one that hired 200 underwriters and 150 in their closing department to try to keep up with the demand.
Wow.
So, it's funny. It's just what's good for one side of the economy, there's challenges on the other side, but we've been very fortunate and blessed in our industry right now.
Well, you said it's historic lows right now with the 2 to 3%, which is amazing. I remember when I first started looking for a home when I was a youngster, it was like 17% was not uncommon.
Yeah.
And you thought, oh, I got a good deal.
Absolutely. When I got in the industry 25 years ago, I was selling 9.25 rates, and then 4 years in, if you could get someone a 7.5% rate on a 30-year fix, the client was ecstatic. You know,
Sure.
So I guess we just date ourselves, right? We've been through the battles.
I
of this
remember
game.
paying points ahead so I could get that extra
absolutely.
point down, and I thought, oh, this is great. And
is
then now I look
fantastic.
at it and go, gosh, it looks like the money's almost, well, it's not free, but it seems that way. If you ever paid 17%, you know, 3% looks like
the
giveaway
conditioning.
money.
I call it the conditioning effect. We see it at the pump. You know, when we go to pay for gas. You know, anytime we saw gas prices get to, 3, 4. You know, especially California, $3 or $4 a gallon. Now we're like $2.20. That man, they're ripping me off. This is ridiculous. But it's what you get conditioned to paying, and then when you see a small jump in those prices, then it feels like you're getting ripped again. And it's like, well, no, not really. I mean, go to Europe and get back to me in terms of gasoline prices, and come back here, and you'll think everything's cheap.
Yeah, I remember when my wife and I were first married. She had a little Nissan sports car, and it was like 84 cents a gallon. You could fill that thing up for like $8. You know?
Right, exactly. I mean, but it's so funny, the conditioning aspect of how that works. But you said Mrs. Ortiz has a gardening question.
Yes, absolutely. So my wife is an aspiring gardener.
Good.
So this is one of the COVID things when it hit. You know, we're all as we're staying home looking for things to do.
Right.
And it's a good hobby.
It's a great hobby. She loves it, but she is struggling with pest control with her tomatoes and her melons and the right fertilizer to use. So every morning she's out there checking on her garden. And it's funny.
I would probably have black cow manure when you mix up the soil.
Okay.
Now, what about 7 dust? Is that not good to put on anything you're going to eat?
Be used. No, 7 can. It's legal.
Okay,
it can be used.
Okay.
It is a carbamate.
Okay.
Organic gardening people will probably kick you out of the group if you want to use 7 dust.
Well, I'm not sure I'm in their group anyway, but I would like to be. But my own ignorance is that I don't often. I'll put something on something and then I'll eat it, and then then my wife will turn around and go, that's poisonous, and I'm like, well, it seemed to taste okay.
Well, Dipel can work on the caterpillars, and that's an organic. It's made from the Bacillus thuringiensis, a bacteria toxin.
Okay.
So you could eat it. It's not going to bother us. Now
He breaks out the Latin terms. They're again very smart sounding.
Sometimes you'll get into a little bit of a fungus problem on a tomato and a little spotting in the leaves.
Yes, she's got that.
And Dithane M45 would help there. It's zinc and manganese, basically. Dithane, Dithane, M-45.
Okay.
It is in my book, Stan DeFreitas' Complete Guide to Florida
A
Gardening.
shameless plug.
A shameless plug, which I've sold about 500,000 copies. Why? Because everybody is from somewhere else. So I wrote something for Florida. And happy to say, and if you want to call me off air, you can order one directly, autographed by me.
You can go to AskMrGreenthumb.com, and we will ship one to you. If you're local, then you could probably, no, you can't meet up anymore. You'd probably have to have gloves and hand sanitizer and masks.
But I can send it to you book rate.
We could send it to you in a book rate.
You can meet 6 feet apart and you could toss it to
Oh,
the other
That's right.
person.
We'll put it into a basket, and we'll just do a dead drop. That'll be the safest thing.
You wear a mask, I wear a mask, we all mask up.
We probably should partner up with like Instacart, where they could just sneak in, drop the book off, and they could pay you electronically. That'd be good.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
So those are 2 things that she probably can help. Dipel, which is the Bacillus, and also the Dithane. Typically, sometimes even with that, just cutting off the bad leaves. If you see a leaf or 2 with a spotting of the fungus, which happens. Okay. I had a lady call me on the air one time, and I mentioned before, and she goes, I think you made up this term blight. I should go back and read the Old Testament. It's full of blight and pestilence. I didn't make it up. The people back then starved to death. Today, we just get really hacked off because we don't get that, $3 worth of tomatoes off of our backyard plant. But, you can get those big hornworms. I remember one time I had a bunch of hornworms get on my tomato plant. I put them all into a coffee can, and I took them down and I went fishing. I said, you got my tomatoes. You'll now have to get me some fish. And didn't work. I tell you, they're kind of like the Wicked Witch of the West. When they hit salt water, it was amazing.
They
but
melted away.
Somehow I enjoyed it, though. I guess I was sadistic because I was going, you ate the tomato. Now you've got to bring me a trout or something of that ilk. And, well, we're not doing a fishing show, but if we did.
Next week, we might do a fishing show.
Well, you never know. We have
Stan
Dan
is
here.
lighting up with that story, man. It's like a glimmer in his eye.
Hey, I enjoyed it, yeah.
You can tell. He has a special passion for killing bugs that ate his food.
That's right. Don't mess with me. Now, what about people who want to get like a jumbo? Let's say they want $800,000 or they want $1 million property. And let's say they must have some money in hand or they wouldn't be coming to see you. But they want to do the deal. Now, I heard a couple months ago that jumbos were gone. But now you told me the other day that you have ways of still trying to make things happen.
Right. So good news. Actually, as of Friday, couple big lenders came back into the market with jumbo.
Nice.
But there's several ways to kind of look at that product. So one of the things we've been using to kind of navigate these waters, and the reason jumbos kind of went away, it's considered a riskier product, right? So during the pandemic, lenders kind of tightened guidelines to make sure credit quality is there, right? You want to be here for the long term. But one way you can handle that is you can do a first mortgage to the conventional loan limit. In this area, is $510,400, and then you can take out a home equity line, to 90, 80, or 90% for the difference. Right?
Okay.
Client still needs to be prepared to bring 10 to 20% down.
Okay.
But that's one way to attack that. We were actually talking with an investor on Friday that's back in the jumbo market. Credit quality is got to be good. Okay. And 20% down.
Gotcha.
And a lot of jumbo buyers do have 20%. They have 10 or 20% down.
Yeah.
That's your more experienced buyer, right? Typically, it's their second or third home, and they're prepared for that. So all that to say is the market is starting to stabilize, and that's great news for all of us. So we're starting to see some of these products that went away as the industry was bracing for the worst, and now that kind of the dust is settling, we're seeing some products come back that went away. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you are a jumbo buyer, again, you can reach out to us or reach out to your banker. And again, it's about planning.
Sure.
Don't assume just because you qualified for a loan even 6 months ago, prior to March. If you've been a shopper that's been out there long term, you got to reach back out, make sure you're still good to go shopping. Based on what your needs are.
That makes sense. We're talking with Dan Ortiz here. We're talking with Motto Mortgage, and he is a wealth of knowledge. If you want to give us a call, it's 1-877-969-8600 or 813-289-1860. He's going to be here we're going to be on for another, 10 minutes or so. And
Dan, what's the number they want to get a hold of you off the air?
Yeah.
They can reach us at 727-202-5626.
Perfect.
Okay. And so that would be, if you want to get a hold of Dan off the air, let's say you want to ask that, special question about how to get the money, that would be a good thing to do.
That's a good number to remember and to write down. We'll be back here in a few minutes. Stay with us.
Stay with us as the Plant Talk continues.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now. 813-289-1860. Toll free. 877-969-8600. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're talking about both. We've got Dan Ortiz with us from Motto Mortgage. And that phone number for him, if you're asking, and you probably are, 727-202-5626, correct?
Correct.
And I'm sure there'll be some people out there going, hey, let me say, one of the first steps you need to do if you're going to be a first-time buyer, or maybe you're going to get into refinance, or maybe you want to step up from that smaller home to the bigger home, which a lot of folks do. you need to make sure the money's going to be in place. And there isn't a better, more friendly guy than we know than Dan over here, who, he's not only does he care, he wants to make sure that you are not overextended.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what a wonderful quality in a lender is, making sure that what's sustainable. It's not what you can afford this great month that you had, or maybe a great year. It's what can you afford over the life of the loan. And I think that's an important point. And not only is Dan very helpful and friendly, but your whole staff that you have working for you. I mean, if they call that number, they may not just get you; they may get some other folks that work there too. And I know you said one of the guys, his name is Abel, and who's some of the other people that work there?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Abel, who's been with the company the longest. He is fantastic. We've got Abel, who's in St. Pete. We've got Matt Schaefer, who's in the Clearwater area. We have Kathy Vidal, who is in the Lakeland Polk County area. And then we have Kim McIntosh, who is in the Naples area, and also Steve Mangold in the St. Pete area.
Gotcha.
So we've got a full staff ready to go, all with the same heart, all with the same, we want to be teachers, right? We want to take a consultative approach to this, and we'll sit down with you. We will make sure that we have a plan in place that works with the family budget, that works with what your goals are. And even, speaking with refis, one of the big things that we all say, hey, let's first find out if we can, and then let's figure out if we should.
I love it.
And here's what I mean by that, especially in a refinance market, right? With rates being low, there's a lot of people looking to see, hey, should I refinance? Well, part of that is, okay, rate is one variable to that, but there's cost associated with it. So we want to make sure that, hey, if you're only going to be in that house another 2 years, maybe you shouldn't. And those are the conversations that we like to have with our clients. Again, we try to put ourselves in the client, what's in their best interest, not our best interest.
Sure.
I had 2 conversations last week with potential refi candidates, but once I really dug in, even though the rate sounds fantastic, you could be at a dinner party and say, I got this rate, and, that may give you a nice little ego boost because, the rate happened to have a 2 in front of it. But once we really broke down how long they're going to be in that house and, what their goals are, we came to the conclusion they probably should not refinance.
Sure.
And that's okay. That's part of what makes us feel good. It's making sure we're doing right by the client.
Yeah, and that's so important too, because that's one of the things that Stan and I do too on the real estate side of things is we try to make sure. Now, again, we specialize in auctions in real estate auctions. So one of the things that we do is we don't always have time to meet with every potential bidder or buyer that's going to be coming to a property. So, but one of the things that happens, and it happens to every real estate agent, is we're supposed to wear many hats, And one of the things that I am very good at doing is saying, I don't know. But I'll find out, or, hey, I'll put you in contact with Dan. He knows the most current things that you're going to need to know that's mortgage related. They expect us to know a smattering, and we do. Most agents have some idea. I mean, I personally, one of my first loans I ever did was a 7-1 ARM. And of course, I'm sitting there thinking, well, that sounds technical, but it really wasn't, but I was trying to get a better rate. I knew I wasn't going to be there that long of time. And so that was the big thing for me, is I was planning ahead. I knew my timeline. And in that case, I was there even shorter than I had anticipated, so that worked out. But you got to know your timelines, especially with ARMs. Tell people a little bit about what an ARM is.
So an ARM in this environment where we are right now, we're really not recommending them.
Right.
But an ARM loan, it is fixed for a certain period of time, sure. Right? Now, back in the day, in a higher rate environment, we would do a lot of ARMs, right?
Sure.
Some were fixed for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, even 10 years. And that rate is fixed for that period of time. And then based on the index that you choose, it can adjust up or down once that, let's say a 7-1 ARM that you did. So that rate is fixed. It's based on a 30-year loan, 30-year amortization, and your payment is fixed for 7 years. And then after 7 years, it can adjust monthly or every 6 months, depending on the product that you choose. But to your point, with proper planning, when we move into a higher rate environment, those may make a comeback. Right now, we're in an environment where
it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense in my opinion. But again, it's all about planning. Sit down. What are your goals? How long are you going to be in the home? If you're only, in a higher rate environment, if you're only going to be in that home 5 years, 6 years, 7-1 arm absolutely makes sense, because before that thing adjusts, you're going to potentially be out of that loan.
Are you doing mostly 20 years or 30-year mortgages now?
Right now, we're doing mostly 30.
Because interest rates so good?
Because their interest rates are so good. But one great adjustment that a lot of banks have made, we've got the ability to do a 23-year mortgage, 24-year mortgage, 17-year mortgage. So we're not only looking to see, okay, how much money can we save you monthly, but hey, if you only owe 23 years on your loan, let's see what a 23-year payment would be with a lower rate. May save you a little less money, but we're not moving you back in the amortization table.
Right.
So we do have the ability to do, they're called flex terms, 24, 25-year mortgages.
That's interesting.
Yeah, especially with refinances.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I had a mortgage guy tell me many years ago is, look, you're just starting out, James. If you get a 30-year mortgage, go for it. If you want to make a couple extra payments a year because you did it well, that was something I didn't realize how much that can affect things when you make a couple extra payments towards the principal, how that can affect things as you go along in that loan.
Just one payment a year extra will take a 30-year loan, knock it down to a 22-year loan.
My goodness,
over the life
folks.
of the loan.
But that see, just by listening today and having Dan tell you that could save you 8 years. 8 years of your life of working hard. And I don't know about you, but if I could get 8 years back on making payments, that is well worth it. So can you believe it? We have now almost finished our 2-hour program. We were so grateful to have Dan Ortiz in here today discussing Motto Mortgage and just telling us all about the wonderful things that he offers, how you guys can help people. And final thoughts?
Thank you, guys. I had a great time. And please reach out to us with any questions offline. And I just had a great time this morning.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Dan. It was just a pleasure. And we'll be here next week, as always, from 7 to 9, doing the Gardening and Real Estate Show.
And if you want to give Dan a call, 727-202-5626. We'll put you in touch with Dan. And stay with us next week.